Good evening, everyone. We're going to call to order a special meeting of Council at 6 o'clock p.m. Just looking for any disclosures of pecuniary interest. Seeing none, we're going to move right into our delegations and presentations. First, we have Mr. Sean Shopton from Operation Sharing Food for Friends. If you just want to make your way to the lectern there.
Good evening. Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here this evening to discuss our Food for Friends program, a signature program created and designed by Operation Sharing. This program is unique because we offer food cards that are supported through 3 locations here in Ingersoll, Giant Tiger, Foodland, and the Independent. Sure. Okay, there we go. And the Independent Grocer. These are actually Operation Sharing gift cards. They can be used as cash and do require a signature match on the receipt tape to prevent fraud, as unfortunately we've had in the past. This program has, unlike most in our program base, has seen a significant increase in 2022 and 2023. Before heading out, I printed off some real-time numbers. Our total for 12 months in Ingersoll in 2022 was $36,225. To date, without our largest month being December, we currently sit at $42,830. This program is far more than just food cards. This is supporting those that are truly on the thin line to keep families housed and to allow people the dignity to have simple and basic needs. Over the last month, I've heard too many times that toilet paper is now a luxury. We have a very well-stocked cabinet, or we call it the cupboard, which is taxable items. So toilet paper, deodorant, shampoo, cleaning products, things that probably most of us take for granted, but simply are getting extremely expensive in the grocery store. We serve a variety of families and individuals, and we do it with dignity and kindness and without judgment, probably the biggest piece that Operation Sharing has allowed to step forward. In our cupboard, we also have a small amount of food selection, and we also have some clothing when needed or necessary that we can bring from other locations specific to size needs. This year, as you can see, and I'm sure everyone is well aware of, the economy has been very difficult. We look at growth across all of our programs. There is not one single demographic that is untouched because of where we're at today. This year, we have asked for $15,000. I realize that our grant does have an error in it, and that is our fault, asking for $10,000. But we made a motion of our board asking for $15,000 this year, which basically will support Bonnie's wage, along with helping keep the cupboard stocked. To stock the cupboard this year, we are currently 80% more than we were in 2022. And as you heard from the dollar value, without our largest month, we are already significantly ahead of where we are. We're extremely appreciative to be in Ingersoll and to support the residents that need some help. This is a program that is not just there for those because we want to hand out money. It's there because we want to wrap them up with supports. We want to make sure if there are other needs, whether it be CMHA or perhaps shelter issues or things like that, we want to make sure they're also aware of the programs. Coming through our door is always the hardest part, so we want to make sure that that opportunity is as best as it can be. I thank you for the opportunity to be here and welcome any questions.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Councillor Hughes.
Thank you. Through you, Madam Chair, Deputy Mayor. So you just said that you want the people that come in looking for help, you say you wrap them in support.
Yeah.
So what are these other supports and how are they funded?
So the other supports, we're very fortunate, are funded through other organizations or the provincial government, such as Canadian Mental Health. Our program, which it would be the IN, but we also want to make sure that they're well aware of programs supported by the County of Oxford through the Human Services Department. A lot of times folks don't believe that there's any help available if perhaps they fall behind in their water bill or their rent bill. There are supported programs at the County of Oxford that significantly help with individuals struggling with that. Communication is probably the biggest barrier because there is a level sometimes, unfortunately, of embarrassment that they've reached that. So for us, we have a unique opportunity where they're coming in for something maybe a little different, but we can engage in conversation that may lead them down to just providing a phone number or being able to sometimes Bonnie will call and say, I have an individual here that is struggling with this. How can I support them? And either we send someone over or we're able to provide information on how they can get in contact with that organization. Yep.
Councillor Van Kootenbosens.
Through you to Sean, thank you for being here. I wish I'd heard this information 6 hours ago. Had a gentleman call today and is falling behind on his rent and wanted to know who to talk to. I did send them to you anyway, so hopefully he does come through your door tomorrow morning. Told him to come in. That's the biggest thing, is getting the word out there. And they seem to call churches, which is great, but we're not the stop, right? We need to get them to where the organizations are. So thank you for being here. This has been great to hear how the numbers have changed, and I'm sorry to hear that those numbers have gone where they have, but thank you for coming and bringing us that information, Sean. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for the opportunity.
Councillor Hallerou.
Thank you. And yes, thank you, Sean, for coming and sharing those numbers. Sadly, that they're rising. I'd like to know, how do people find you, aside from people who already know where you are? How do new people find you in Ingersoll? I know that you're talking about the Oxford County programs and your head office there, but in Ingersoll, say someone were to fall through and needing help and needing to access you guys, where would they find you in Ingersoll?
So thank you very much for the question through to the councillor. We have a strong online presence, but our physical location in Ingersoll is at Trinity United Church. We operate there Tuesdays and Thursday mornings from 9 a.m. until noon. And quite frankly, there is a significant amount of other organizations beside us that if someone is getting help, we have a large referral base to our services as well. So a prime example, if there was a new family coming to our country or new individuals that were really unsure where to get clothing or food cards, there is a large amount of support and referrals, whether it be from the County of Oxford, Canadian Mental Health, Salvation Army. We're all really trying to work together to make sure that the word is getting out, but we do everything we can to share the services that we have available.
Thank you.
Any further questions for Mr. Shupton? Seeing none, thank you very much for coming.
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes? Yep, thank you.
Sorry about that. Moved by myself, Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Councillor Hudson, that the Council of the boy, it's going to be a night. That the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll received the delegation from Sean Shapton of Operation Sharing Food for Friends as information.
Discussion? I'll just ask a question of staff. There was a request to amend their request from 10,000 to 15,000. Does that need to be done tonight, or we're okay to discuss that at the next meeting?
Since council will be considering the grants in an overall case for your next budget meeting, we'll include that as an item listed on that spreadsheet at that time that council can consider that.
Thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor? That's carried. Sorry. Moving on to our next delegation, we have Mr. Jim Corbeil from the Ingersoll Shuffleboard Tournament, if you want to make your way to the lectern.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Jim Corbeil, past president of the Canadian National Shuffleboard Association and I'm here in regard of the Ontario Shuffleboard Association. Ontario Shuffleboard Association was formed in 1984. We're a not-for-profit association registered with the government. Would you like to know the president and the vice president and all that?
That was in your application package, so you don't need to include that. That's
Okay.
okay. Thank you, though.
We're planning a tournament here in Ingersoll, Ontario Shuffleboard Association tournament, May the 28th to the 30th. Over the past 5 years, the Canadian Shuffleboard Association has had shuffleboard tournaments. We've had 5 national tournaments and 1 interprovincial tournament held here in Ingersoll. And last year, we had the 2022 World Team Championships shuffleboard tournament involved 10 countries. And here's a plaque which was given to me. It's going to go in the hung up in the arena. Anyway, Ingersoll's have one of the best venues for a tournament like this right across Canada. It's about the best venue. We have 18 courts and we can support a big tournament. These tournaments, this will be the first year for the Ontario Association tournament, and we're hoping to have this as an annual event. We'll have players from several provinces and the northern United States, totaling about 125 to 150 players. This will showcase the town of Ingersoll, and it'll support the restaurants, campgrounds, and hotels. And we're hoping to boost the membership of the Ingersoll Community Center Shuffleboard Club, our program. We're asking the community grant, we're asking for a community grant to help pay for the rental of the arena and insurance. It's quite high. Over the next years, we're hoping to have sponsors, but with COVID, there's not too many businesses right now where they're just getting back on their feet, so it's kind of almost impossible to get sponsors for an event like this at this time. And over the past years, as a CNSA, we did receive several grants from the Ingersoll Community Grants, and we're hoping to continue support for this tournament here. Questions?
Thank you. Any questions? Councillor Van Kooten-Bossens?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Through you to Jim. Welcome. Thank you. You did fine. I know you were very nervous, but you did just fine. Can you tell me what the demographics might be? Like, what's the ages that are playing shuffleboard?
Well, here in Canada, we have amateurs and pros, professionals, and the ages, it's mainly, well, I'd have to say seniors. And now down in the States, in Ohio, they have to start shuffleboard, believe it or not, 5-year-olds. You know,
Really?
And in the international, we had the tournament we had here, we had players from Germany and Norway in their teens. So it's really really catching on for the young people. But it's still a seniors, more of a senior because of the time it takes.
Okay. So you're saying that you're wanting to build the Ingersoll Shuffleboard group that's here. Do we have, how many do we have right now? And if they're not meeting here, where's the closest center? I noticed that you're from Woodstock, it looks like.
That's
Is
right.
the closest center then Woodstock for a shuffleboard association then?
No, there's the association is the Ontario around. There are clubs, like there's a club in Blenheim, there's a club in Elora, Godrich has a club. But this is the Ontario Association, and it'll be a tournament run by the Ontario Association.
Okay, but there's not a club here in town at this point then?
Well, yes, we did have the club, and it's and the senior center, or at least not senior center, the community center.
Okay.
Because, to be quite honest, because of the insurance costs and the rent of the arena, of course, well, we had a meeting and it worked out that the senior, or the community center took over the program.
Okay.
And it's run, in the summertime, we have good, quite a good members, 30, 35 members. Here in the wintertime, we're lucky we get about 12 to 14, which isn't good, especially for an area like here. We can draw from London, we can draw from Tillsonburg, Woodstock, and which we do draw from there, but right now, a lot of people go south.
Any further questions? Councillor Hughes?
This is a question for Kyle, through you, Deputy Mayor. Have we given them costs in the past for the arena rental, or have we done anything with them in that regards?
I believe when they did the national tournament or the world tournament that they're talking about, we would have invoiced them at what the cost of the arena was at the time. So there was no subsidy involved with that tournament. We offer the shuffleboard program as an Ingersoll Community Services program, so we receive that revenue for running that program. But in terms of their previous tournaments, we invoice them at cost for their events.
Councillor Van Kootenbossen?
That's just led me to another question. So during the winter then, I'm assuming playing upstairs then of the arena then?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And then during the summer, are they down on the arena floor?
And they're down on the
Okay.
arena floor.
So could that be a part of the reason why our membership drops off a little bit? Just probably a lot of it, yes, going south, but could it be that it's on a different surface and it's not as good? I'm assuming our surface at the arena would be very, very good, but is that a part of it maybe?
I know from hearing from Jim, but Jim might be able to answer this better. The arena floor surface is one of the best surfaces from what we hear for shuffleboarders anywhere around.
Okay.
So the preference is to use the arena floor. They use rollout mats in the arena auditorium.
Okay.
It's also a smaller space. It's not quite the same experience, but Jim would be able to answer the playing surface better.
The rollout mats, they're fine, and the floor, you have to go, it's a little bit on the wavy side, but we've set them up so that they're good. And it's not the upstairs that's holding people back. I really don't know why. I just don't know how we can advertise to get better people, or more people, not better. But we do have a lot of, the players that we do have here in Ingersoll do compete in these tournaments.
Okay.
And they, a lot, like when the tournament comes on, there's quite a number from London and of course around the other rest of the provinces as well.
Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. Through you. This is some money questions. You were saying the cost of insurance. What does insurance cost to cover your tournament?
Last year, it was $480, and I imagine it'll be up this year, probably in around the 500 range. And the arena cost is usually about $1570, I believe it was.
One more. So the Ontario Shuffleboard Association, so obviously they're the ones through you are applying for the grant from us.
Yeah, I'm the tournament chairperson.
Gotcha. Have you, in other municipalities, have you also asked on behalf, not you specifically, but Ontario Shuffleboard, have they also asked for different grants for other programs that they run through different parts of the province?
Well, not for programs that they run, but I imagine like in Godrich, for instance, they have a tournament there. I don't know if they ask for a grant or not. I'm pretty sure I would imagine they do. I know down in Blenheim they do. And same with Chatham and over in Elora as well. I'm not sure about Godrich, because they shut down for a couple of years and now they're going again. But it's costly, but then again, what isn't?
Thank you. Any further questions?
Would you like to have a look at this and hand it?
I just have one final question before you're done this evening. Could you just confirm again the total budget to run the tournament and then the fee to enter a team?
What would the total budget be to run the tournament? It would be about $3,500. About 35 to 4,000.
And sorry, the second question was the cost to enter to participate in the tournament.
I'm sorry?
Is there a fee to enter to participate in the tournament?
The fees to enter?
To participate in the tournament, or is it anyone can enter?
No, there's an entry fee.
Yes.
Which helps build up the prize money because that's what people come for is the prize money. And the entry fee is $20 a team of two players, which goes, all the money goes into that goes into prize money. And then we have to, of course, we have directors pay and all equipment and such.
That's all the questions I had. Anything else? Thank you very much for coming. We really appreciate that.
Well, thank you very much.
Take care.
Appreciate it.
Councillor Hudson, you have a motion for us?
Yes, thank you. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Passens that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive the delegation from Jim Corbiel of the Ontario Shuffleboard Association as information.
Any discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. So we'll be moving on to the third and final delegation, which is Cindy Barnum from the Ingersoll Skating Club. If you want to make your way up to the lectern.
Okay, so my name is Cynthia Barnum, and I brought a longtime friend and fellow board member, Barb Stanley Biddorf. We both are past presidents of the skating club, so it's an honor to work with Barb, who's been part of the club for, I want to say, over 20 years. So,
Over 30.
there you go. So we just wanted to apply for this grant because the Ingersoll Skating Club has been fostering the love of skating in Oxford County since 1953. Our nonprofit organization is run by a volunteer of board members. We all have full-time jobs, but we like to give of our time for satisfaction to see these children on the ice and with their smiles. We rely on fundraising, donations, and sponsorships to keep our registration affordable for our families. This has been increasingly difficult in the current economic climate, and our registration numbers are down by about 15% as families now forego extracurricular activities to keep their bills paid. I believe learning is a Canadian rite of passage to learn skating, and as we fill an important role in our community, youth sports are instrumental in developing healthy and lifestyle and social connections, confidence, and a positive form of stress relief. After 70 years of operation, there's a good chance someone you know here has learned to skate with the Ingersoll Skating Club, and we hope to continue this tradition for a little while longer.
Ingersoll is basically a recreational club. It's for fun, it's for exercise, it's Skate for Life. It's a promotion that Skate Canada has been promoting. And you're skating over the years. We've had skaters in our club start as young as 2, and we had a 70-year-old at one point. So you can see we reach all age groups. We have professional coaches. Often, most of our coaches have actually gone through our club as skaters. They've gone on to professional shows, some of our skaters. We've had national champions come from our club. We've had national coaches come from our club. We've had international competitions done by some of our skaters. Both skaters and hockey players over the years have been trained through the Ingersoll Skating Club, and we have quite a rich history. Due to the years, we've had lots of fundraising, which we rely on. This is becoming more and more difficult because of families having difficulties having the time and to be able to do the fundraising, having less families. It's just become harder and harder and more of a burden, I guess, on the board to raise this extra money. But we do it because we love the skaters, we love the families, we love seeing their smiles. If you ever start and see our kids when they first start in September, October, they can't even move, some of them on the ice or whatever. And then by Christmas, they're moving, and then by the spring, they're skating around the rink. And it's so fun to see those smiles, especially on those little ones and on their parents and the grandparents when they come and see them. At our grand finale, which is our carnival, which we're very, very proud of. So we've helped more and more skaters do figure skating, recreational skaters, hockey skaters. We try to keep our costs down because that's important to our families, so it's available to all. And over the years, we've had sponsorship programs where we've had families who maybe couldn't quite afford it, so we've gotten the money through different organizations, or we funded them ourselves, or in some cases, we do payment plans so that the family can work it out, whichever works best for them. And we really do try to work with our families in order to make the costs reasonable. We've had players go, as I said, rec skaters, figure skaters, hockey players, ringette players, and even a couple of speed skaters from our club. The rich history of which we would like to continue with our 70th anniversary, and we are hoping to continue and improve the quality of programs at a very reasonable cost. And that's why we're asking for this grant, just so we could keep our programs at a very reasonable cost for all families so that all children have the opportunity to learn to skate and to develop their skating skills and go on to achieve their life goals, whether it's just skating on a pond or whether it's going on to a competition or on to be a great hockey player or whatever it is. We like to promote everyone, and we ask that you consider giving us a grant to help support this program.
Thank you so much. Any questions? Councillor Hughes?
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. So just a couple questions. What's the number of membership within the skating club?
Currently, we have approximately, I want to say 90 of our own members, but we do have members, actually they're not members, but they come and they guest skate with us from Dorchester and Tillsonburg area.
Okay, so do they pay a registration fee to do that, or no, they just show up? Oh, they do pay.
Yeah, they all pay. Yeah.
Okay, no, that's fine.
Yeah, they either pay a registration fee to be part of a regular program, or they pay what we call a guest skating fee. So we use that fee to fill in extra ice time that we might have so that we have more skaters on the ice, and they pay like an hourly rate for the guest skating fee to cover our cost of our ice.
Great. And what does registration cost?
It depends. So for Ken Skates, for our Learn to Skate, so our little ones, they do half a year for Learn to Skate, and it's, right now, I think we had to raise it this year to $200, $220. Then we have the Ken Skate program that runs from middle of September till March, till the carnival, and they're involved with our carnival. And theirs is approximately $450. And then we have our junior skaters. It just keeps going up because they get more ice time as they go. So junior skaters are approximately, I want to say $685. Intermediates, we're looking at about $750, and seniors, I want to say this year I paid $8 and change.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
And our Learn to Skate program, which we only run for 10 weeks, is around the $220, $230. And that's really just to get people involved. And it's a way that if families don't feel they can afford the other, then it's our way of saying, okay, we have this program if you'd like to come and just learn to skate. And we have a lot of recreational skaters, or we have a lot of skaters too. Oh, my son's upset. They're going to skate in his class and he doesn't know how to skate. You know, or they want something recreationally that they could do with their family. So we had one time we had a dad and 3 sons come out and learn to skate together. We've had children with autism come out and learn to skate. We've had children with other disabilities come out, and we try to accommodate everyone. And sometimes some of our older skaters, we call them program assistants, and they come out and they may be paired with a child that maybe has autism or something in order to help them to learn. And then we also have the professional coaches on the ice. So we have a lot of volunteer young people that help our club, and without them, we couldn't do it because we couldn't afford to pay for the coaching costs. But it's a way for us to get other people and as many people as we can involved.
And to circle back to your question, sorry, I was just thinking, so when we do our registration costs every probably June, July, we look at how much is the ice bill going to be per month. We look at and how much is Skate Canada insurance going to be a month. And Skate Canada insurance just upped from $44. We're now paying $60 per child. So we have to take that into consideration, especially when a parent's on the ice. We have two costs of $60. That's $120 out of that $220 that we have to pay directly to Skate Canada. So we try to keep it that we don't make money off our club. We try to make it that we can put those kids on the ice to enjoy it and just cover our fees and go from there.
Yeah, usually our registration fees, when we try to budget over the years, covers our ice costs. Our fundraising fees covers all our extra programming, our staffing costs, our music costs, our promotional costs and things that we do. So that is kind of how we try to budget. So we need the fundraising that we do with our club, very much so, and any grants or money that we can raise.
Thank you. We have a question from Mr. Mayor here.
Thank you, Chair. I have a question. Kyle, can you please, how much is ice time and how much is it subsidized currently right now?
So the minor sport prime time rate, which is the majority of what figure skating's ice or skating club's ice time is at, is $128.32 an hour. If we actually charged what it cost to run the facility, no one would ever be able to afford to participate in hockey or skating. So it's heavily subsidized. I don't have that number in front of me right now, but they pay $128.32 an hour for the majority of their ice time, which is the minor sport prime time rate.
Okay, thank you for that information. And to the delegation, I'm looking at your profit and loss sheets from 2022 to 2023. It's showing that you have a net income in the positive of $24,000 or approximately $25,000. You're asking the residents of Ingersoll to contribute $5,000 to next year when there is it is a profitable organization. How can? Not I'm saying it's wrong or anything. I'm just saying, what would you say to the residents of Ingersoll to justify that?
So the surplus that you see there was invested last year and the year before that into an investment for our club. Our club fluctuates regularly. Some years we come out, and I know the last year I was president, we came out with $800, and that was after everything was paid out. The surplus in there is locked in for a year, and what we do is we reevaluate at the end of each year to where our finances are, and then if necessary, we pull that out to pay. What we do like is to have that approximately $8,000 in hand for September when we have our first ice bill and the registrations aren't all in. And like Barb had said, we do payment plans. We do some children, we have Jumpstart. We have different children that can only pay so much a month. So for us to fulfill that bill and pay our invoice in full at the beginning of the year, we need to have that little bit of surplus sitting in the bank. And I believe we can pull it out in August.
Part of that surplus that we have has been when we've had some very good fundraising. If you remember back years ago, we had the BX93 dances. We made a huge amount of money back then, and we gradually have depleted it. And then we've started now to do some other fundraising where we've gotten some money back. But I think for us, it's trying to keep everything affordable for the skaters and for their families. And that's what I would say to the town of Ingersoll, is we want it to be affordable. We do have some major costs that we have to invest in, and we've done that over the past few years where we've gotten grants, and we did the upgrade for the music system in the arena. Was probably before your time, Kyle. But that system now is probably at least 10, maybe more years old, and it needs to be updated again. It's not working well. The computer that we run on is not working well. So I guess what we're looking at is trying whatever money we receive this year goes to pay our expenses for this year and keep our fees low for our skaters. And then we need to budget in some major expenses, like we need a new computer to run our music. We need some more money for our carnival because it's our 70th anniversary. We want to be able to do more things. So yeah, I think it's really just keeping our fees affordable and being able to do some of those specialized programs. Like the money, I'm not sure this year because I'm not involved in the treasury, but I know often our Learn to Skate program does not make us money. We hardly break even. But it's a program that's important to the community, it's important to our families, and it's important to us. There are lots of times, sometimes on the ice, we don't have enough skaters to pay, and other programs kind of offset that. But usually it's our fundraising that helps us get through. As I said, we're lucky if our registration fees cover our ice bills. And I know they're subsidized, and I appreciate that, but that is still a large cost for us as a club.
We just have a question from Councillor Hallerou here.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. The question I have is, have you considered offering, like, if we're going to be considering a grant for the organization, we're asking, like the mayor said, people of Ingersoll, is it possible that you would offer maybe free sessions to have people come in once or twice just to experience it? People from backgrounds where they've never considered skating, but because it's such an essential sport in Canada, and because we're subsidizing if we are, is that something you would consider, to have 1 or 2 sessions that people could come in and experience skate and have them maybe be potential future customers that would pay then?
We do that already. We have what we call Bring a Friend Day. We've done that in the past, Bring a Friend Day. This year we're hosting, between Christmas and New Year's, a free skate for the public, for the community, as part of our 70th anniversary, so an hour of public skating. And we're doing that to promote our club, to promote skating, to invite people to come and try it. You know, we'll have information set up for anybody that has any questions, because definitely it is something that we value as a club and what we feel is really important, to allow anybody to come and skate. And we've had various different types of families come, and we've also had we had children that were, I can't think of the name right now, I'm sorry. But anyway, we do have a lot of variety of different children and families involved, and we do. And if anybody is interested, we've offered them the opportunity to come try it. And that's why we do the Learn to Skate too, because it's a short commitment. If you like it, you like it. If you don't, you don't. But it's that opportunity.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Sorry, did you have a follow-up, Councillor Hallerou?
No, thanks.
Okay.
That's good.
Any further questions? I just have one question for staff. Perhaps the elephant in the room. What precedents would it set to grant a skating club in this for the ice time?
I'm not sure about precedent. The 2 main user groups of the Ingersoll Arena would be the skating club and Ingersoll Minor Hockey. They both play the same they pay the minor sport prime or non-prime rate. So those would be the 2 user groups that use that fee. So I could see on one hand, if skating is asking for this, this could be something that minor hockey could additionally ask for, as they're very different programs, so I'm not going to say that they're comparable, but they pay the same fees.
Thank you. Any other questions? We have a motion from Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, please.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receives the delegation from Cindy Barnum of the Ingersoll Skating Club as information.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate that. Thank you. So we're going to move on to our special staff reports. I will turn it over to staff for the multi-year operating budget presentation and report, please.
That would be me. Paula, can you please move the presentation? So tonight, staff will present council for consideration and review the 2024-27 operating budget. So staff prepared the presentation. So given that we have 2 members attending online, I feel as we probably should hold the questions to the end of the presentation, or will be a lot of jumping around. Okay. So we will present the budget, the multi-year budget, but we will also present the 2024 operating budget a little bit more detail. So we will concentrate our attention to the 2024 budget. So we have the directors here, we have the manager of public works here present. So we will be able to, staff will be able to address any questions council may have at the end of the after the presentation. So I highlighted, it's our 4th meeting. We're meeting about the 2024-2027 budget. So hopefully the last meeting is scheduled for December 18th. So that's the final meeting. So hopefully council will adopt the budget in 2 weeks. So looking at the budget priorities, improved level of service, minimizing tax rate impact. The budget is aligned with council strategic priorities. We are projecting no new debts, manage reserves and reserve funds. We continue investing in our infrastructure and closing the infrastructure gap, and also mitigating the risks, for example, large tax appeal, loss of assessment, rising inflation, competing labor markets, stuff like that. So some of the challenges, as even our delegations today mentioned, the high inflation. So it's one of the challenges we have to, and we are addressing through this budget, supply chain disruptions, low government funding. As you will see, the government funding only comprises about 1% of our budget. So it's not a very sustainable source of revenues, competitive labor market, and large tax appeals. So the operating budget, as we look at the next 4 years, we're projecting about $75.8 million in taxation levy, and the average annual tax levy increase will be at 4.95%. Looking at 2024, we're projecting 4.9% tax levy increase. So the sources of revenue, as I mentioned before, the taxation is our primarily source of revenue. Between the tax levy and supplementary taxation, it's about 83% of our revenues we receive through taxation. User fees and investment income follow the taxation at 7%. Reserves 2%, and the grants are only 1%, and that's looking at the next 4 years. So where tax dollars are spent, so the parks, arena, recreation, so the community services comprise about 28% of our expenditures. followed by the protection services that include fire, policing, and by law enforcement. Engineering services, transportation services, corporate counsel, all big-ticket items as well. So now we will review the 2024 budget in a little bit more detail. So the operating budget, the levy at 17.8 million or 4.9% increase. So transfers to reserves is 3.8 million. So there were a couple changes since our last submission, which was in October 30th. So we've added $1,500 for the Safe Cycling Committee after the presentation at the last council meeting. So it's additional $1,500. And we also, staff would like to add $5,000 for the dog park maintenance. So the highlights, it's all funded through the current levy. There are no requirement for any prior year surpluses, $3.8 billion in transfers to reserves. We've increased our transfers to reserve for the MERC to $600,000, and it's about $150,000 increase compared to last year. The budget provides additional $270,000 in transfers to reserves that will address our growing infrastructure gap. There is no new debenture financing, and as I said, mentioned before, we're increasing levels of service, particularly in the public works department. It's sidewalk plowing and leaf collection. So we've acquired 2 new pieces of equipment that will help us to increase levels of service in these areas. Community services, Victoria Park Community Center and parks, and the corporate services, it's in terms of communication and transparency. So looking at 2024, again, the sources of revenue haven't changed. So it's the tax levy is continue to be our primarily source of revenue, and we are projecting $17.8 million. It's an increase of $838,000 or 4.9% compared to 2023. That's just another way of presenting where the tax dollars are spent, and it's based on an average tax bill. And this is only our portion, the lower tier, excluding upper or school boards. So the tax impact is on the medium single-family home, we are projecting 2.83%, or so-called, we also call it as an effective tax rate. However, since the budget was released last week, we received our returned assessment roll, and the growth I projected originally is actually better. So I have recalculated the effective rate. So the levy number doesn't change at 17.8 million or 4.9%. However, the effective rate has changed, and it decreased to, just a minute, 2.46% compared to 0.83%. So that's a good story. Some of the major variances in the 2024 budget, it's just a repeat from the presentation on October 30th. I don't want to bore the council with numbers, but we've increased a little bit, not a little bit, quite significantly, building permits revenue. It does not impact the actual levy because that department is self-sustaining. So the CBO was able to revise the numbers, and the building permits revenue are projected to increase by $367,000 compared to last year or 2023, and it is due to the new industrial development that we are projecting for next year. Community services, the membership, the user fees are up by $217,000. This is due to the recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic. We also introduced some of the new program offerings and youth-specific programs as well, like the summer camps at the BCC and the Fusion Center as well. So we'll see some additional money through recoveries from the County of Oxford, projecting about $60,000 in additional revenue, and it's all the result of the new service agreement with the county that council just approved, I believe, the last meeting. Unfortunately, there is some not so good news. Its OMPF funding is down $22,000, and we've seen the reduction year over year for the last 10 years, and it's about 15% every year they reduce the funding. So the expenses, so the salaries and benefits, $975,000. Again, that includes our COLA increases, several new positions, minimum wage increases, step increases for existing staff, and some positions that have been already filled and approved by council this year. They were not included in 2023 budget, so that drives some of that number up as well. Operating expenses, new equipment for public works, park services, Victoria Park Community Center, some new furniture for youth center and the museum. Information technology, we've seen some changes in terms of the licensing from the Microsoft Office programs. So that's all the main drivers. The insurance expenses are projected to increase by $61,000. We've had just meeting with our insurer this morning, and this number has been confirmed. So it will be $61,000. So the program expenses have increased by about $60,000. Again, we have included some provisions for accessibility advisory committee, diversity assistance programs, safe cycling budget, and recertification for some staff at the aquatics at the PCC Community Center. And professional fees are up $53,000, and it's due to the downtown proposed study for the downtown revitalization. Equipment building and maintenance is projected to increase by about $87,000. There's some repairs that are required for the fire equipment at the fire station. The street lights, we're increasing the budget, maintenance budget a little bit just to keep up with inflation. Public works facility, they're looking at converting the facility to LED lighting and repair the overhead door and new pool chemical controller and spare pool pump for the Victoria Park Community Center. Contracted services have projected to decrease by $25,000. Again, there will be some savings in the public works because we're not going to contract the snow plowing for our sidewalks. It's going to be done internally. We no longer require services of outside contracted professional engineers. We filled the position of town engineer. And the museum master plan is additional $50,000, so that's the net is $25,000 savings. The OPP contract is, we received, this number has been confirmed, a $127,000 reduction compared to last year. And we also finally repaid our debt for the LED streetlight project that was done a few years ago. So it's a savings of $209,000. So now I will just go to a little bit more detail per department. Again, the idea was that council may have questions during the presentation, but we would like to probably hold the questions after the presentation. So the first department, first but not least, is council. So we are, so the budget is at 2024 budget is proposed at $262,000, a 3% increase, or $800 and $449 increase. So this is mainly due to the COLA increases for council members, and there was a couple items as reduced legal budget by $2,000, but we added $2,000 into the graphics and printing budget, so that's a net of zero. So it's mainly the COLA for council members. Not only COLA, but the health benefit premiums are up as well, so that number. The CAO budget is projected at $374,000, 10% increase, or $34,000. So there is also cost of living and health benefit increases. We also would like to retain a consultant that would help us to assess town insurance coverage and help us to prepare an RFP to go to market for these services. And there is a little bit of a reduction of $10,000 transfers from reserves. This is due to the, as council may recall, in prior years we've had a lot of expenses related to the landfill. It's no longer I don't believe we have anything budgeted for this year, so that's a reduction relates to that area. So for the clerk's department, we are projecting $573,000 budget. It's a reduction of 13%, or $85,000. But again, there is a little bit of reorganization. So previously, human resources were part of the clerk's budget. So now we have created a separate costing center for human resources, so that we are transferred HR manager wages to that budget, and that generated savings for clerks. There is also addition of $10,000. It's $5,000 each for two new initiatives, as I mentioned, Accessibility Advisory Committee and Diversity Assistance Program. They each, the budget for each is $5,000. We've in the process of completing the downtown parking review, so the $50,000 budgeted last year are no longer required for this year. However, we added a park dedication study at $25,000, so the net savings are projected at $25,000. And the grants, so the budget for the community group grants, so it's a $15,000 increase, but what we've done, because we didn't have the number at the time so what we've done is we took the policy and took the number from the policy, and that's what has been allocated in this budget for the community group grants. It's $60,000 in total. So human resources, as I mentioned, it's a newly created costing center / department. So we are projecting in budget about $173,000. So they had a little bit of a budget before, about $2,000 or $3,000, mainly for advertisements for vacancies. So now we had all the wages for that department. So that's the HR manager wages. So the number is a little bit higher just because it's including step increases and the health benefits. We also included a new position, HR Health and Safety Coordinator, which will be shared between Zora Township on a 1/3 Ingersoll and 2/3 Zora basis, and it's an additional $21,000. And we also moved employee appreciation budget, which was originally a part of the CEO budget. We moved it to the human resources, feeling it's more appropriate to have it here. It's additional $6,000. So paratransit, it's a significant decrease of 88% or 38,000, so the total of 5. So what we've done here, council is aware that we receive funding for this program. It's provincial gas tax. So previously, we did not have an opportunity to use the funding because they had some thresholds in place, which we were never able to achieve. So before we had to spend certain amount of money before we could use the funds. So they took those limits, they're no longer applicable, so now we can start using the funds. So we started, I believe, a couple years ago, just transferring $15,000. So starting 2024, we are proposing to actually use $55,000 a year. That's what we receive from them annual. It's our annual grant from the provincial gas tax. So that's the decrease. And then that's offsetting some of the increases would be in the contract we have with the taxi company. So the crossing guards are $62,000 budget, a little bit of a decrease of about $5,000. Again, it's only wages, and we've just reviewed the positions and just calculated what's required for next year using the wages that we will be paying next year, and it's a little bit of an adjustment compared to last year. So the information technology of $454,000 budget, increase of $40,000 or 10%. So that there would be a number of drivers for that amount. So first would, I didn't put it on this slide, but it would be COLA and step increases for the staff. Then there is also changes in licensing for the office suite. It's additional almost $17,000. And we also will need to do the testing this year for the cyber insurance. So it's done every other year, and 2024 is the year we have to do it. So we're thinking about that's what we've done before, so it was $7,500 in the past, the cost of the testing. So the Treasury Department, the budget is almost $457,000, a decrease about 1%, $3,800. So this department, I just would like to point that in that department also we have retirees, a number of retirees who gets the for life health coverage, basically that part, and they are they're included into the Treasury Department. So the COLA, step increases, and health benefit premium increases are also including the town retirees. And we also have filled the position of deputy treasurer, which was budgeted for 6 months. Now in 2023, now it's for full 12 months for 2024. So combined, it's additional $104,000. The insurance for the town is also included in the Treasury Department's additional $61,000. Ontario, OCIF funding is a reduction of $22,000. All the debt payments are also part of the Treasury Department, a reduction of $209,000. So that's basically a combination of these drivers. So the taxation, we have tax levy that is projected to increase by $838,000 or 4.9%. We also have tax adjustments. It's a decrease of $74,000, and it's mainly due to the phase-in adjustments due to the boundary adjustments. So we have certain properties in the industrial and commercial class that we phase in over 5 years, and the residential properties over 10 years. So each year we are getting a little bit more money from them and less of the refunds. So the building inspections is a self-sustaining department, so there is no impact on the levy. It's just for demonstration purposes. I included this slide to show the revenues. As you can see, the revenues have been significantly, we're projecting a significant increase of $367,000, and expenses at $480,000. Again, the expenses are due to the cost of living adjustments. Some of the what we've done, we've allocated some of the wages, like treasury, even my wage, a little bit, 2% of my wages, to the building department because we provide that support to them, and so that's being compensated through the building permit revenues. So in 2003, as you can see, we were projecting transfer from reserve of $241,000. Starting 2024, just because of the revenues will increase significantly, we are projecting transfer to reserve, to the building department reserve of $36,000, almost $37,000. So property standards, that would be the bylaw enforcement budget. So a little bit of a decrease of about $10,000 or 10%. So that the main driver would be we previously used to allocate wages from the building department to provide these services. So now we have property standards commissioner we no longer require these allocations. So that's the majority of savings come from there. And but we're also projecting to implement a complaint module through Cloud Permit to track the property standards complaints. So that's an additional $16,000 for that department. So the town hall, it's just the facility, all the cleaning and maintenance of the facility. So we added $5,000 for tree removal and beautification around the town hall, and staff will bring the report, I believe, later in the next year or maybe this year, explaining what it's going to look like. And we also revised our transfers to reserves for this facility just based on the 10-year capital forecast, and we increased it by $10,000 for this facility. So the fire department, and that is combined, the fire department itself and the fire facility. So the cost of living and health benefits increases as up $55,000. So the overall budget is up $93,000. So the wages account about $55,000 of that number. There's also inflationary increases for like uniforms and firefighter equipment, and of about $6,500. And then the new emergency reporting software is projected an annual expense of about $10,000. There's some repairs needed for the Pump 1 and Unit 2 trucks. It's an additional $15,000, and we've increased transfers to reserves by $23,000 due to the escalating costs for the fire equipment, particularly for the fire trucks. So Fire Chief and myself, we feel this should be adequate to make sure we replace the equipment when it's needed, and we have sufficient funds to do so. So the policing cost is down $130,000. Again, it's due to the reduction in OPP contract of $127,000. And it's due to the reduction is, I believe they changed their billing model. So that's how I'm not sure that's going to happen next year. That's why, as you can see, starting 2025 and 26, 27, we are projecting increases. Because the 2024 was just a one-off year. The police facility is up about $9,000, and we are just, because the cost of the cleaning supplies, janitorial supplies have increased, and so as wages. So with the chargeback, we've increased the chargeback for that, for these services to the police facility by about $6,000. So the Police Services Board, so this is a preliminary budget. They sent their budget Friday. So that number is, we will present council with new number on December 18th, because this number is significantly lower from what they actually, from the request we received from them. Engineering department, $2,300,000 budget, an increase of 5%, we're projecting $113,000. So there's some savings we will see through the recoveries from the county of $60,000. Contracted services, $20,000. However, the wages have increased by about $134,000. We used to allocate the engineering, or the town engineer wages. It was a split between the engineering and public works, because now the engineering is not supervising, managing public works, so the 100% of the wages are now allocated to the engineering department. That's why the increase is quite significant. And of course, COLA and step increases. And we've also increased transfers to reserves by $50,000. For the, that's all related to the sidewalks, all our linear infrastructure, and storm water management system as well. Street lights, an increase of $12,000, and it's due to the repair and maintenance costs are going up, so we have to account for that. Public works, increase of $105,000 or 5%. So majority of it, of $92,000, is all related to the collective agreement that we have just finalized. So increases due to that. Health benefit increases. We also have included a couple students for the summer months to help them out. There's some savings because of the sidewalk plowing, the contract the cost of the contract was about $40,000, so now it's going to be done in-house. It's savings of $40,000, but there is also additional about $30,000 in maintenance cost for the Public Works shop. As I mentioned before, it's conversion to the LED lighting and replacement of the overhead door panels, repairing the overhead door. So this one is Parks and Arena. So that number would include Parks, Arena, the Senior Center, and the soccer fields as well. So the number is up 16% of $345,000. There's also was new collective agreement for the Parks Department, so that's incorporated in the budget. So the wages and health benefits, we're projecting about $114,000 increases in that area. Safe cycling budget is included in this budget. It's an additional $7,000. We've also put a $17,000 allocation for the Canada Day celebration. And we've bumped up the transfers to reserve by $150,000 for the multi-recreation, for the MERC. So that's a big half of the $345,000. And we also increased transfers to reserves for the Parks facility and Parks equipment. We increased the transfers to reserves by $40,000. So combined transfers increased by about $190,000 for that service center. Victoria Park Community Center, an increase about $102,000 or 7%. As I mentioned before, we've seen good recovery from the pandemic. Significant revenue increases, $187,000 for the VPCC. However, we require additional $178,000 for wages, and that includes cost of living, collective agreements, the benefits, and also we've added a full-time position, admin position, and aquatics coordinator position, and then also aquatics requires some more part-time complement from part-time staff. And we've also increased transfers to reserves for this facility by $40,000. The youth center, an increase of 14% or $103,000. So additional would be $52,000 for wages, again, collective agreements, because the maintenance staff for the Fusion Center are unionized, cost of living, health benefits, and transfers to reserves, additional $20,000. And there is also other areas, but it's just the more significant, more notable variances. So museum, a reduction of $14,000 or 5%. So there was some changes in terms of staffing complements, so that's reflected in this number. However, there is also additional expenses for the new furniture. We're projecting about $15,000. The current furniture is not adequate whatsoever, so they require, it's the true need for that department. We're also projecting $50,000 for the master plan, but it will be funded from reserves, so there is no impact on the levy. Same as with the furniture, it will be funded from museum reserve, so there is no impact on the levy. That's why it's a decrease for that department, not an increase. And the last department is economic development, increase about $68,000 or 15%. So the main driver would be the communication officer position that was approved in 2023 and filled in 2023. It was not part of the 2023 budget, so therefore is an addition to the 2024. And also we have some of the special project is a downtown revitalization study. It's additional 50,000, but we are recommending to fund it from reserves as well, so there will be no impact on the levy. And additional $10,000 is included for the communication officer activities. So for communication purposes, whether or not it's printing material or some online material, so that's an additional $10,000. So that concludes all of the departments. So I've given you the overall overview. So now it's just reserve and reserve funds. So looking at our reserves, so we are projecting to end the 2023 at $24.5 million. The transfers to reserves, as I mentioned, $3.8 million. We're projecting to transfer from reserves about $4.9 million. So the overall change will be a decrease about $340,000 in reserves. But this is mainly due to some of the outstanding carry forward projects on the capital side, not the operating. And the alignment is not really good on this slide, but you will see that operating transfers from reserves are about $241,000. That would be the projects like the downtown study, the museum master plan, that would account for $100,000 of these transfers. There's also some transfers related to from development charges reserve fund that are put towards paying the debt. And it's all included in the development charges study, so that also part of that transfer. And for the capital projects, we are projecting to transfer about $4.7 million from reserves. And it's just how our, it's looking at 2016 to 2027, just gives council and public a view how we've built our reserves, how it's important, and we will end 2024 about the same, $24 million, but starting 2026, 2027, that's when we hopefully will start constructing the multi-use recreational facility. That's why the decrease is significant on this slide. And debt, as I mentioned, no new debt projected for 2024, and the outstanding debt at the end of the year will be at $936,000. And again, that's where we started. So we were over $6 million in 2015. So, and now we are at less than $1 million at 2024. So there was no new debt. So we're managing pretty well in that area. And this concludes my presentation. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So now we'll work through questions from council. And I think the easiest way might be just to work through department by department, just so staff aren't expected to be all over the map as we work through our questions. So that would be starting with any questions around the council department budget. Pretty straightforward. And CAO, any questions? The clerk's department, any questions? Oh, Councillor Hallerou.
Thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. Question I had was regarding the downtown parking review. Is that something that we're not doing anymore? Because I remember, I thought it was still coming as a report, but I see in this budget, it seems like it's not happening anymore. Just wanted clarification on that.
Through the Deputy Mayor to you, Councillor Halleru, we are doing that project. The RFP was issued in October and recently closed. We have scored all of the submissions and have selected a successful proponent. We're in the process of awarding that contract. My plan is to bring an informational report to council once that contract is finalized, because there will be a kind of a large engagement piece with various stakeholders in the community. So just want to keep council up to date on where we're at. But yeah, it has been finalized. We're just in the process of awarding that contract.
And maybe if I could just clarify, so that's being spent in 2023. So in the line in this departmental highlight, it means that we won't have to also spend it in 2024. So that's why it's a reduction. So it's being spent in 2023, no longer needed to be included in the budget in 2024 because the work is being done by staff in 2023 and it'll be spent at that time.
All right, gotcha. Thanks.
Thank you. Any further questions for the Clerk's Department? Councillor Van Gouten-Bossens?
If I can go back one department, I missed it, sorry. I apologize, you went really quick. Just a quick question for our CAO, for the consultant for the insurance costs. At one point, there was only one insurance company out there. Is there now more insurance companies out there that we can put that out to go to a consultant then?
Yeah, there are more companies offering insurance to the municipal sector since Frank Cowan Company has been eliminated. I think there'll be even more. In the last few years, we've seen a few more companies, so it may be time to go out to tender to see what kind of bids we can get.
Thank you.
Councillor Hughes?
Through you, Deputy Mayor, a little further on that same comment, will they also be looking at the opportunity or the option of self-insuring, cooperating with other municipalities and self-insuring?
Council's probably heard me say multiple times, I think a cooperative insurance is the way to go, but it's a much larger project, so we probably won't be looking at that at this point. If we were to hire a consultant, it'd be really just a competitive bid process and putting together an RFP that makes sure that we get the most competitive bids we could. A cooperative insurance is something that's being talked about across the area. It needs to be talked about further. It would be nice if we could get some of our partners to entertain that across Oxford County, but we probably need something bigger like Oxford, Elgin, and Middlesex. It probably needs some political pressure from a politician that's well known across those areas, and probably needs some pressure from a CAO or somebody that's known across those areas. I know of one that's known across those areas, but he seems to be a little busy these days, so I don't know that we have time to push it, but we've been trying to push it across anywhere that we can, and we've seen some traction. There are more and more municipalities that are starting to consider that. I think we'll see it in the next couple of years start to form and possibly take shape, but it's going to be a few years in the making.
Thank you. Any further questions for the CAO's budget or Clerk's Department? Human Resources. Any questions for staff here? Paratransit? Crossing guards? IT? Councillor Van Gouten-Bossens?
Don't go too fast. The crossing guards, did we just lose a crossing guard then? Or is it just the 4,900 savings?
We didn't lose crossing guard. So we developed budget on number of hours we need, not the people, but based on FTEs, full-time equivalents.
Okay.
So we've just revised the number of hours. The 2023 budget had a little bit of excess hours we don't need. So we've just streamlined that and recalculated what we actually need.
Okay.
In
I just
terms of
wanted to make sure
hours.
that we weren't
we're
eliminating
not.
any positions in that respect out there. I mean, our crossing guards are awesome out there and they're keeping our kids safe. So they're definitely needed, especially for parking.
No,
So-
there was no reduction in terms of hours or people or FTEs.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you.
So any questions for the IT department budget? Treasury? Councillor Hughes?
I had it written down here. I just didn't look where I wrote it down. Right? Noticed a huge jump in 2026. Now, I know this isn't the, well, that we're, fixed on, that can be adjusted, but what's the reason for that 65% increase in projected increase?
Okay. As you can see, I've reduced the interest income, our investment, just because of, as I mentioned, the construction of multi-use recreational facility will draw from reserves, so we will not have as much money to invest. And also, the high interest rates we're experiencing right now are not going to last. So the Bank of Canada is projecting decreases starting first quarter, like at the end of the first quarter of 2024. They're not going to reduce it drastically, but by end of 2025-26, I'm afraid we'll go back to the lower interest rates.
Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens?
Thank you. The OCIF funding, when will we run out? When will it be completely depleted that we won't be getting anything? Sorry.
Well, as I said, they're reducing it by 15% every year. 15%, so they basically give us 85% of last year's, of the prior year funding. So whatever, like
So
we
where
will
that-
eventually, we'll.
Okay. All right. I just didn't know if we had like an end date where we might not be receiving that anymore at all. Like, I know when I first started on council, it was a good sized number that we were getting from the government, but we're now down to like piddly amounts, so.
Yes, and
Okay.
it's not really even
Thank
worth
you.
mentioning pretty soon with.
That's right.
Yeah.
That will be, we've sort of been expecting it to be imminent any year, but it just kind of keeps whittling away, so before 2030.
Councillor Hallerue?
All right, thank you, through you, Deputy Mayor. I just wanted to be sure on why. Is it because we're making a case that we're not in debt or we're doing better that we're losing this funding?
No, it's not because of that. So it was, this funding was restructured, I would say, probably 10 years ago, maybe about that. So they've just restructured how the funding is allocated. And it's every municipality in Ontario are seeing those decreases. So it's basically they just downloading on municipalities everything that was funded through that prior. Yes, I can bring more information about the OCIF if council would like to see the information, but that's there's several components to this funding. So the northern communities, they receive more funding, which we are not, rural as well. So they've kind of reallocated it more towards municipalities that are, that probably need the money more than us. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions for the treasurer on tax levy or adjustments? Building inspections? Property standards? Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. Now, I know we discussed, this might be out of the police services, but we discussed the savings that we gained from the elimination of the enhancement from last year was going to be partially reinvested into bylaw. How are we coming along with that? And I know there was a brief mention about it, or Irina made a brief mention about it earlier tonight, but are we looking at more and more all the time, hours and that type of thing? And how is that affecting, has there been any negative feedback from the municipality?
Well, I'll start by saying you're all being ticketed right now, so that might mean we might have to pay later on, so, yeah. This department really has been a complete growth. There wasn't much of a budget in this department previously at all, so this is now a real actual department, and so those monies that were in the OPP budget are now included in here. So far, what we have seen is that with the amount of work that we're putting into it is sufficient, so we haven't had to grow it significantly. We started with a number of hours and tried to evaluate if that's enough. We've had a good response out of that. We're still in the growing stage and trying to learn and work through that process, but so far we haven't seen a significant need to increase those hours, so we'll continue with this, but over time, this department will continue to grow like other departments do, and as we grow, there'll be more property standards issues, so that will continue to grow, but what we initially expected to put in for hours, we kind of thought that was going to be under, but it looks like so far that's sufficient, so that's why you're actually seeing a decrease, not an increase, and we expect that going forward to stay relatively stable. And we've had pretty good response, and I think departmentally, I think I can speak for all of us that it seems to be functioning well, and that it's, taken some pressure off other departments to deliver the services they provide more efficiently.
Councillor Hughes?
Let's follow up to that. With the fact that now we're having a more of a, if you want to say, full-time bylaw enforcement, are we going to be looking at revamping some of our bylaws that, were last done in the 1990s or earlier?
I would say potentially. I don't know of any particular ones that we're running into that need some legislative changes. I'd have to look to my team to see if anybody's got anything specific. But I can't think of any off the top of my head, but we're always trying to revamp a number of policies. We are looking at a few of them over the next couple of years. We've got a schedule for the clerk's department of what they're doing to revamp some of their policies, so that will be a thing we do every term of council, so there'll be a couple of those that'll be caught up in that, but I can't think of any off the top of my head that we've sort of identified through this process that this really needs to be updated. Just more minor issues of parking in various areas. There's been some parking in various streets where the Transportation Committee has reviewed them and said this should be or shouldn't be, but not real policy development at this point.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. Any other questions for property standards? Town Hall? Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens?
So we're removing the trees. What are we doing instead? I'm going to ask the question out there.
There will be a fulsome report that comes before council with a drawing to show, essentially, it'll be replacing the trees with the black pots that everybody loves, because those trees are dead, so.
And I don't disagree with you, Kyle. I just wondered what we were going to do instead, because I don't want it to look completely bare either. I mean, to me, we need to do something, so I just thought I'd ask.
And that's totally fair, and Kyle and I are both kind of laughing because we had a great debate about whether to have the report here tonight or not, so, and I think I was the one that said, no, we won't need that, yeah, so Kyle was right, I was wrong. But there will be a fulsome report before we actually implement that, so council will be able to consider it.
Thank you. So that would bring us to the fire department. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. And I noticed with this, but it's also, I've noticed it with other departments as well, increased transfer to reserves. Is that just for this year, or is that going to be ongoing?
That's going to be ongoing. Well, for example, fire department will increase by $23,000. It's not like another additional $23,000 started in 2025. So we've just increased it by 23, yes. And we will, of course, we will revisit it next year, every year, just to make sure the transfers are adequate.
Any further questions for the fire department? Oh, Councillor Hallerou?
Thank you, through you, Mayor, Deputy Mayor, sorry. So the question I have is when you say inflationary increases in uniform, firefighter equipment, cost of 6.5K, I'm not seeing that huge cost for the truck that the fire chief asked for. And is it something I've missed that maybe already happened? And that's why it's not in the budget?
Well, that was in the capital budget. This is operating budget.
Okay.
Yeah.
I know I was missing something. Thanks.
Mr. Mayor, did you have a question I missed? Okay. Moving on to police budget. Not much we can do there. Police facility. Police Services Board. Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens?
I was trying to make sure that I was getting in on the right one. Police Services Board, I understand the mayor not receiving any compensation for serving on the board, which is fine, and that's great, except that at the end of this term, then...
Can't hear you.
Sorry, let me try that again. I put my mic on. Thank you, Councillor Helleru. I understand the mayor not receiving any funding, compensation for sitting on the board. However, at the end of this term, to me, we should be putting that back in so that because we had said that this wouldn't be a stipulation for any person who was taking on the mayor's position. So I just would like to make sure that it is going back in there what the mayor should be receiving for a compensation, because we're doing, a long-term budget. Has it been put back in? Because I couldn't figure out where it was in that respect. So I just wanted to make sure.
No, it would be when last year, the 2027, I guess. No, it was not incorporated in 2027 budget.
Sorry if I may. We're projecting into 2027. So to me, we should be increasing that back in there. Am I wrong?
Yes.
Potentially. Not potentially wrong, I mean, potentially, that's a bit of a crystal ball, of course. But given some of the changes we have with the police services budget, we'll have to look at that in a more comprehensive way at your next meeting, so we can discuss that item as well. We'll do some research on that.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. Yeah, to clarify that, the motion that council passed didn't have a end date on it. It was a change in policy, so council would have to change the policy again if they so choose at a later date.
Thank you for that. Engineering? Streetlights? Public Works? Any questions? Oh, sorry, Mr. Mayor, go ahead.
Thank you. I was trying to find the raised hand one. It was easy to just get the raised hand up. Just a question of clarification. I see that, and I agree it's good that we're taking over the sidewalk plowing. Is there any additional cost that's in the budget that I just didn't see for that, that service being transferred over with materials or extra time allocation?
Just give me a minute, please. There is a little bit of increase in materials, that would be for the salt, I believe. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Van Kooten.
Sorry, just to follow up on that, we believe, so you're confident that we have enough staff? It's just redirecting staff from their current duties, just playing around with the numbers, I guess, a reallocation, and no extra hours are required.
We've added one additional staff this year, so now it's 10 employees versus 9, so I believe We have Doug here, Doug Whittick. He may be able to provide a little bit more information.
I just want to make sure they have the resources
Yeah.
required.
Yes.
Perfect. That's all I need to know.
Councillor Van Kooten Boston.
Don't go away.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping for more than a one-word answer. How's that sound? So, I mean, we're taking over, which I think is great, that having it in-house, I agree with the mayor. I think it's great to have it, but do we have the equipment? So have we always had the equipment, or I didn't know that we had the equipment. How's that sound? But that's why I'm asking.
We didn't. We added a new sidewalk plow with the expectation we kept our old one, which would have been auctioned off. In 5 years, we're going to replace that. So we'll have a scheduled replacement of the two machines. We have two. Identical.
Any further questions?
Enough words.
I have one as well, also about snow. So with moving the sidewalk plow responsibilities in, do you think that would improve snow maintenance in the downtown core? Because I know some feedback we've heard, and certainly from the accessibility committee, is previously downtown was really difficult and they would just avoid it altogether. Do you think this would improve that by having it in-house?
The only way to improve the level of service there is to improve or change the level of service through you. So a request would have to come in. Currently, that's 38 centimeters of accumulation before we do a snow lift. That being said, we do make an effort to clear out the accessible spots with our machine, so those who need to access the sidewalk that might have some difficulties can do that. But currently, we don't remove any snow until I don't measure it with a tape measure, but thereabouts 38 centimeters.
Thank you. Any further questions for Public Works?
Come on.
Thank
I
you.
may never come back. It's your chance. Press the button. That's it.
Thank you. So our next department is Parks and the Arena. Or, anything community services, we'll just open it up. Councillor Hughes?
Thank you. The dog park, 5,000, is that just the regular maintenance? Is it in addition to what the budget already is for that? Or is that a new budget? Or is that to actually make the small dog park thing?
So all maintenance that happened in the dog park all went through the parks budget, so it's to set aside $5,000 specifically for the dog park for any fence repairs, wood chips, et cetera, that go to the park. It's to have its own budget specifically for that. That's not encompassed in the overall parks budget. All the other stuff will come in their separate report to council at the next meeting.
Excellent, thank you.
Councillor Van Kooten Boston?
This year, we did the Canada Day celebrations, and so I'm assuming we spent around $17,000, and that's why we're budgeting $17,000 then for next year?
This is so last year, I wasn't here, but I believe we only did fireworks.
Right.
This would be similar to what we do with Santa's Village to offer programming in addition to fireworks. So it would be both. It would be Santa's Village-esque, but for Canada Day.
Thank you, Kyle.
Any further questions for community services? Museum? Economic development? Curtis joined all the way from Japan. Do we have no questions for him? So that is department by department, unless there's questions around reserves or reserve funds. But if there's any outstanding questions that have come up, now's the time. Mr. Mayor?
Thank you. I do have a question for reserves or transfer to reserves for Irina. We've had discussions before around where capital reserves are needed. I believe you said it was facilities. What is, I believe 1% of the budget is $178,000 approximately. Is that number a close approximation of, I'm not sure if, hate to put you on the spot, I can always ask this question later, but of what would need to try to get that in a better position, that file, or is there another number that you could recommend that would possibly help that reserve along?
Yes, we had this conversation. So we, Victoria Park Community Center, and actually specifically the senior center, so any other public buildings, require significant investments, and the reserves are, we're managing, but we could definitely use some extra funding to keep up with renovations and with upkeep of these facilities. So extra $100,000 would definitely help to fund our at least the next 5 years of the budget of the capital expenditures for the public facilities.
Okay, thank you very much for that information.
Councillor Halloran, did you have your hand up? Okay. Any further questions for staff? Good, okay. So I believe we have a motion from Councillor Hudson, please.
Thank you, through you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Van Kooten-Bosens, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll receive staff report T-025-23, 2024 to 2027 operating budget as information.
Any discussion? Councillor Hughes?
So far, through you, I'd like to thank staff for bringing back a comprehensive budget. It looks good. I'm not too happy with the 5% increase, but in today's world, it seems to be increase everywhere. But no, it was a very comprehensive budget. It looks good. And once we, anyways, thank you very much for bringing it forward, doing all the hard work, and working to save the municipality taxpayers huge increase. And that's all I got to say. Sorry, rambled.
If I could, we appreciate that. Staff worked very hard on this, and I do want to talk about the effective rate. Due to the changes now, we're down to like an effective rate of 2.46. So, the 5% would be levy to levy. As we continue to grow, and especially as we grow much faster, we're probably going to have to talk more and more about effective rates, because it's difficult to talk about, and I know my counterparts in Milton went through this years ago, where every year they were growing by so much. Their costs were growing, but they were also growing. So, it was hard to say, oh, this is a 50% tax increase, or a 15% increase, but when you're growing 13%, that was going to happen to us, not to that degree, but it's going to happen to us. So I encourage council to kind of think about it on the effective rate, maybe possibly to the chagrin of our treasurer, but it's still important to look at the levy comparison, because you're trying to look at the various departments and where costs are increasing and why they're increasing. Hopefully they're increasing based on the strategic goals that council set, but you want to make sure that's the case. But then when you're thinking about it and communicating to the public, it's that effective rate especially when we're in high growth, it's going to be hard to compare. And that was also the case when we did the boundary adjustment. It was difficult to look at because you really weren't comparing the same municipality anymore. So it starts to happen the same way in the growth environment when you're growing so much so quickly.
Thank you, Mr. Graves. You said that much better than I would have. Councillor Van Gouten-Bossens?
If I can, thank you, staff. First of all, it's been interesting to see the multi-year budget. As I said before, I was kind of against a multi, but it's been good. I love it. Next steps, though, because this has kind of changed up a little bit. I know we're supposed to be bringing a motion forward, which if we want to see anything changed for the 18th, then we're to submit a motion to the clerk's department. Am I correct on that? Or can you go over what some of the next steps are and some of those changes for us in that respect?
Well, we are hoping to bring forward the budget at the 18th and for council to actually consider. There are a couple of ways that if council wanted changes, they could do that through notices of motion before that meeting. Of course, council as a whole could discuss it at that meeting and make changes. You know, although we give you resolutions, you can make recommendations to make changes to those on the fly as well. So there's a couple of ways that that can be handled. You know, also it may involve questions to staff, but we've seen some of those questions throughout the process. So I think what we're reflecting here, each budget meeting is probably a little more refined. And as you can see, we're getting more information. So we're able to bring in the latest information to give you where we're at. So I guess there's more than one way. Really for us at this point, unless Irina has anything to add, the 18th would be when we bring forward the comprehensive budget and be hoping for council's approval.
Well, I believe the mayor wanted all the changes to be brought through motions. And if council would like to see the changes incorporated for December 18th, I will need that information like yesterday. Well, I will need it as soon as possible. That's what I'm trying to say, because I will need to recalculate everything, make sure everything balances and prepare the package. So in the next week would be preferably if we receive everything.
Mr. Mayor?
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Yeah, there's certainly nothing in a procedure bylaw that dictates that we have to have notice of motion. The idea behind that is that we can get to December 18th and that everybody will be prepared to debate those different motions. And so we can walk away at the end of the day with a passed budget. If we wait to that day to bring forward motions, there could be a possibility that staff won't have the information and we'll have to delay, as well as other councillors won't be ready to debate those items. And again, cause delay in the budget. So it's just being proactive and making sure that we're ready for that day, and then we can have a final outcome for staff.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Oh, sorry, Councillor Hallerou.
Thank you. Through you, Deputy Mayor. The question I had was, okay, so if we have an idea for example, I want to clarify with Irina, when you talk about the paratransit 55K going to reserves, if there was something that someone wanted to suggest, it would come as a motion and you wanted that, and that's a possibility that we could actually have that considered on the 18th?
Sorry, can you repeat the question? I didn't really understand.
I was going to get clarification on the transit and the paratransit 55K. And then I was hoping that we would actually have a motion on the 18th, but you're saying you want it as fast as possible. So I guess you would want some idea of what I'm talking about before we hit the next meeting.
Yes, I would like to have an idea at least, so I can have that information ready for council and not saying, oh, I need a day or two. Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Councillor Van Gouten-Bossens, if you could take us into committee of the whole.
Be my pleasure. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Youth, that the mover have leave to introduce and go into committee of the whole on the following bylaws. 1, engineering and construction services agreement with Oxford County, bylaw 23-5288. 2, confirmation bylaw December 4th, 2023, bylaw 23-5289. Council and committee of the whole, Deputy Mayor Wilson in the chair. On motion, the bylaws are accepted as circulated, and that constitutes the first and second reading of the bylaws.
Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? None opposed, that's carried. Councillor Hughes?
Moved by myself, Councillor Youth, seconded by Councillor Hudson, that the committee do now rise out of committee of the whole.
Any discussion? All in favor? None opposed, that's carried. And Councillor Hudson.
Thank you. Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Van Houten-Bosens, that the bylaws 23-5288 to 23-5289 are now read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed, and that this constitutes the third reading of the bylaws.
Thank you. All in favor?
Sorry, we just couldn't hear that motion.
I didn't hear, yeah.
Oh, okay, sorry. Well, she'll reread, thank you.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Van Houten-Bosens, that bylaws 23-5288 to 23-5289 be now read a third time, passed, signed, and sealed, and that this constitutes the third reading of the bylaws.
Thank you. All in favor? None opposed, that's carried. And we are at Councillor Van Houten-Bosens to help us adjourn.
Absolutely. Moved by myself, Councillor Van Houten-Bosens, and seconded by Councillor Hughes, that the Council of the Corporation of the Town of Ingersoll adjourns the December 4th, 2023 special meeting of Council at 8 p.m.
Discussion? All in favor? None opposed, that's carried.